Hello, I'm Chris Hartwell, and welcome to the Heartbeat. Today we're going to be talking about Roland Emmerich's Independence Day Resurgence. Join me, won't you? So, Independence Day Resurgence takes place 20 years after the events of the first alien attack, the effects of which can still be seen in the fact that the planet, even 2 decades later, is still unified as one. And part of the reason that unity has lasted so long is there's just this kind of abiding feeling that the aliens will one day return. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happens in this film, forcing a whole new generation to unite as one and kick some even bigger, even badder alien butt. Now, just to kind of set the playing field, considering that this is a sequel, I thought it would be helpful to very briefly share my opinion on the original 1996 film. Now, though I've never considered the first Independence Day to be some masterpiece of cinema, I did find its script to be impressively focused as it juggled a half a dozen plot lines and even more characters, all of whom were uniformly and consistently engaging, charismatic, and fun. Along with that, the alien attacks, as well as the moments leading up to them, were surprisingly iconic and in moments really powerful. And it really did have an original score that was wonderfully triumphant and, especially compared to so many blockbusters these days, memorable. I still put on the President's Speech track if ever I'm looking to feel inspired in any given moment. And I also say, just in general, there is something that I do kind of appreciate and kind of rather like about the best of Roland Emmerich's films, that being this undeniably ridiculous, over-the-top bravado mixed with this often very cheesy sincerity, which actually is a combo that I kind of associate with pretty much any 90s action flick. And I personally thought that the first Independence Day was definitely one of the more successful examples of that style, but as time has gone on, I've just come to realize how much of that film's success really hinged upon the just charisma of its two lead actors, Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum. And I've got to say there were moments on Independence Day Resurgence where I saw Emmerich again going for that specific kind of 90s tone, and going for it quite bravely, considering how most successful blockbusters these days really avoid anything resembling that silliness like The Plague. But for me, I did actually rather enjoy kind of watching him recapture that decade's style and tone in those moments of success. And to his credit, though he certainly is no Will Smith, I thought Liam Hemsworth really went for gold, doing his darndest to emulate again that strange mixture of macho energy and silly earnestness. And I will even admit that while watching he and his only there for laughs sidekick in their first scene save the day, all the while letting out spirited battle cries and cracking jokes respectively, I still found myself smiling quite a bit. And though others have criticized someone else's plotline, and rightfully so if you were to judge it solely based upon how it moved the plot forward, because it didn't, not at all, I personally found Julius and the kids' subplot to be another fun instance of Emmerich's throwback style coming to play. And as a sequel, I did also appreciate that we actually felt the repercussions of the first film, both the positive and the negative, allowing us to see the sort of alternate 2016 timeline, which was very clearly marked by the 96 invasion. So for example, the now very iconic rallying speech that President Whitmore gave to the nations, where he implored them to unite against the aliens, ultimately making the 4th of July a national holiday, still held true at the top of this film. As a side note though, as this film continued, I did find it fun that they continued to explore and sort of expand that idea, though ultimately, it was more of a kind of setup for a potential third film than really servicing this specific story. On this film, though, it was cool to see it 2016 with these technological upgrades, as humanity had spent the intervening time cannibalizing alien technology and integrating it into its own. Which, as it turns out, really was all for naught, considering that the aliens had had the exact same 20 years to upgrade their own technology, and kind of making the playing field as uneven as it was in the first film, and leading to some even more gargantuan destruction, the alien ship this time being so massive that it possessed its own gravitational pull, sucking up buildings from Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and later raining them down upon London, England. Which was pretty cool looking, but with that destruction, as compared to the first film where the writers got us to invest in a whole host of side characters who, when they died, allowed us to feel the greater weight of all of those who had perished during the invasion, this film never really possessed that kind of emotional attachment. And even when it tried to replicate it, with one death in particular, it didn't really land because we hadn't been built up in this film to connect with that character, nor do we see their demise really affecting any characters in any lasting way, anyways, on the film. And a lot of this came from just a very unfocused, all over the place narrative. So even though I mentioned earlier really enjoying the style and tone of some of the subplots, as spirited as they were, a lot of them really did nothing for the overall flow and growth of the film, to the point where by the third act, I really wasn't invested in or caring about any of the characters or conflicts. So for example, with all of this alien implemented technology, that really was something that Jeff Goldblum's character was responsible for, but as we heard him state even in the trailer, I had years to get us ready. "We never had a chance." A line which, out of context, I thought maybe would potentially carry some role weight, or maybe open up some interesting conflicts or developments for the character, but in the film itself, we were never even given an indication as to what that mission meant to the character, or if it cost him anything, or if now that it was shown to be all for naught, he felt ashamed, angered, or saddened. Instead, Goldblum was kind of just asked to play the exact same beats that he played on the first film, and kind of, as amazing of an actor as he was, it did kind of come off as just a little bit tired. And of course, I'm not saying that he was given some sort of amazing material to play with on the first one either, but when a character is only given a few beats to really communicate who they are and what they want, especially if who they are and what they want is rather cheesy or archetypal, then the actor playing them had better bring it, infusing as much personality and charisma into those moments as possible, as to convince the audience to come along with them on this ride. And actors like Will Smith, or more recently Chris Pratt, really have done that, whereas actors like Jessie Usher or Maika, who played Hiller's son and Whitmore's daughter, just didn't. And something else that felt more than just a little bit tired and kind of pulling a real Force Awakens was just this film's visual style and location selection. Like, the filmmakers couldn't conceive of anywhere beyond moody underground bunkers, cold alien spaceships, or bright expansive salt flats to shoot this film. But maybe the action that took place in those old locations was new and inventive, or at least successfully derivative. Well, there were moments, like watching Julius try to outrun a tidal wave in his motorboat, or Mr. O'Perry from Game of Thrones continue to show off his skill with a blade by hacking down aliens with a machete. But by and large, it was just generally forgettable, and with the aerial dogfights especially, which included these modified fighter jets that were now rather similar looking to the alien ships, were consequently made almost completely incoherent. And to close things out, though this film certainly wasn't helped along just by how much the blockbuster landscape has changed since 1996, there having been released handfuls of disaster films and dozens of invasion films with enough destruction in all of them to make even the coolest earthquake, tidal wave, or explosion feel old hat, at the end of the day, even if this film had come out in 1997, I probably would have felt like it still felt flat, just because when it came to the narrative and the visuals and the action and the acting, at its best, it was mainly just a lesser-than reproduction of the original, and at its worst, it was sloppy, unfocused, and sometimes just downright confusing. And it's for all these reasons I'm only going to give Independence Day 2, Resurgence, a 2 out of 5. I would still love to know what you guys thought of the film, though. Did it live up to your expectations? Is this the Independence Day sequel that you've always longed for? Definitely comment below and let me know. Also, you guys may have noticed that I'm currently on patreon.com, and if you haven't, here's a video kind of describing a little more in depth what I'm doing over there. But just to give you an even more specific flavor of what I would have done with those extra finances, which really do translate into extra time, is not only would I have made a review for Independence Day Resurgence, but I would also have made a very in-depth video essay about how blockbusters have changed from 1996 until now. And I'm still so very passionate about that video essay idea and really do want to make it happen at some point. And I think that's it more than anything. More than you guys just going over to patreon.com and checking out my ideas or my video content. No, I want you guys to look at those ideas, discover if you're passionate about them, let me know, weigh in, and let's do this together. Finally, please do subscribe. I'm going to continue to review films and television on this channel, and I would love for you to stay up to date on all of those things. But for now, I'm Chris Hartwell. This is The Heartbeat. Thank you for joining me.